friends are coming in, so need you to approve your friends to coming in, right? Okay, so shall we continue discussion on definition of innovation? So what is the definition of innovation? Dalam bahasa Melayu lah, panggil sebagai peresapan inovasi. Alright, in English word is to call definition. So meaning that how do you put the innovation to change the adult? Alright, it's not easy to make a change, but you can do the change through the diffusion strategy. So how do we diffuse the innovation? That is something topic that will be discussed for today, inshallah. And again, before we go further on this, so maybe if you have any question, if you have any queries during my sharing, okay, during my lecture, you can ask me. Okay, don't need to worry. You can ask me, you can ask the question, right? Inshallah, we'll be going to discuss later about this. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me share what actually the diffusion. Okay, what is the meaning of diffusion actually? So diffusion is talking about the process which is you can do something like innovation that can be communicated. This is very important. You need to ensure that innovation that you have that will be shared to the target group. Okay, of course the target group here is adults, right? So what actually talking about the innovation itself? So innovation is something that how do you bring something to them, and maybe may I know what kind of innovation? So as your what do you see innovation? Is it innovation that you need to do something new, or you need to revamp everything? So what kind of the innovation? What do you think about innovation, ladies and gentlemen? Maybe you can give the point of view. What is kind of innovation? What is innovation from your perspective? Anyone? What do you think about innovation? Right. Yes, please. Siapa nak cuba? What is innovation based on your perspective? Cepat. Saya tak betul tak salah. Right. Remember, you have 10 marks now for your engagement, your commitment in this class, right? Okay. What is innovation?
When we say innovation, the first thing that comes to my mind is regarding technology.
Okay, good. Meaning that Sugita, your perspective. Okay, again, Sugita.
No, that's all. Something that related with technology development, upgrading, something like that.
All right. Thank you very much, Sugita. It's good perspective. So Sugita said that this is based on the technology, right? Based on the technology, based on the meaning that something that you want to give something good, right? So good. All right. Thank you very much, Sugita. Yeah. Anyone? What do you think about innovation in your mind? It's okay. Betul tak salah.
Doctor, I think innovation is like change. It maybe means to improve or replace something.
All right. Thank you very much, Hu Jiwan. So talking about to replace something. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Okay, again. What do you think about innovation? Anyone? Cepat. Tak ada betul tak salah ni. Kita bincang dulu.
Doctor?
Yeah, yes, Alina.
What about the changing in teaching method or the learning context itself in the class?
Okay, thank you very much. Meaning that talking about the change, talking about the content and method. Yeah, thank you very much, Alina. Right. Lagi? Anyone? What do you think about the innovation? Cepat. Okay. What do you think about innovation? From your perspective. Tak apa, tak ada salah. There's a no wrong and no right. You can give your point of view. What do you think about innovation? Yes, please. Anyone? Syafiqah, you want to say something? All right, ladies and gentlemen, actually I agree with you that you give the point of view about innovation, right? But actually, this is something that what is the best thing about innovation here is about how do you do something like it's a continuous improvement, meaning that you do the continuous improvement in every time. Are you familiar with Kaizen? Yeah, Kaizen, right? The Japanese word is called Kaizen. So Kaizen actually is a continuous improvement. So innovation is talking about the improvement. It's not something that innovation you need to start something new or you revamp everything. But innovation is how do you upgrading, okay, whatever you have. And this is called innovation. And of course, this innovation something that go towards for the betterment, and you can do something like, say for example, what makes people more valuable with it. All right. So how do you ensure that the innovation you bring will help them, okay, to change. So all in all, innovation is something that, how do you see from the perspective of how do you upgrading that? This is called the continuous improvement. How do you improve from whatever you have? Okay, that is called innovation. And again, we're talking about the innovation to ensure the innovation meet to the understanding of the client, which is the adult itself. You need to have a good communication. So again, the diffusion is based on the communication, the process whereby the participants share information to reach a mutual understanding. So that all meaning that you as a change agent, you want to bring the change to the adults. So the process, the medium of the communication must be in line with that. So this is based on the how do you approach them, how do you convince them. That's a called a diffusion. All right. So innovation itself is a context, it's a content, right? It's a content, not sorry. Innovation is about the content, but diffusion is about the context. All right. So the process, the strategy. So this is called diffusion. So diffusion is talking about something that the communication in which you are having a message to deliver a new idea. And of course, talking about the diffusion is a special character because you can see that this is a process. You must think about diffusion is about process, not something that fixed. So sometimes when you deal with this certain group of adults, it's different. With you cater this adult, for example, you cater the activity with the adults in the village, in the villages, for example. Compare then you attach with the adults society in community in the town. It's different. Even in the town also you can see the different type of demographic. Maybe they are live in the flat area. Maybe they are live in the apartment. Maybe they are live in the outskirts. Maybe they are live in the meaning that let's say for example in a certain area, restricted area. So of course the way how do you approach them is different. Okay, this is talking about the degrees of uncertainty. That is meaning of the degree of uncertainty. And diffusion is a process by which an innovation is communicated over time among the participants in the social system. So here, participants refers to the adults. All right. So meaning that they are in the social system. So you still remember the social system? It's talking about the group of community, the group of adults. They are sharing their values, they are sharing their thoughts, and they are learning together. All right. Okay. So are you clear with diffusion? So now you're clear with that? Ada
Yes,
soalan tak nak
Doctor.
tanya? You're clear? Right. So the process of the diffusion of innovation here, looking on the process where the innovation is communicated, you need to understand this word communicated. All right. Diffusion of innovation where that innovation itself communicated through certain channel. So certain channel meaning that you can have face-to-face session, you can have an online session, you can make it, let say for example, two-way interaction. So this is based on how do you communicate with them. And of course, at the end, they will impact to the social system. There's a 4 element of the diffusion. All right. So this is seems like a pillars, right? While you want to make it some innovation and you want to ensure that this innovation communicated through to your client, which is the adults. First, we talk about the innovation itself. So again, I remember that before this, I said that the innovation is your content. So innovation is consider that what actually the content that you want to deliver is number one. Number two, you need to identify, is it communicated through the certain channel? So you need to identify what type of channel that you want to communicate with them. You have the one face-to-face session, you have the dialogue session, you have a town hall, you have the discussion, FGD, focus group discussion, or maybe you have the round table discussion. So, or maybe you want to deliver it in via online, or maybe you want to provide the information through Facebook Live, for example. So this is talking about the channel. Okay. It's not channel. Channel is a back, came back. It's called channel. Okay. All right. And this is talking about how do you make it over time. So over time meaning that how far you communicate with them. All right. So over time, it's talking about it's not just for the one-way ticket, but this is a reciprocal engagement, okay, with your client, who is the adult itself, right? Because you want to monitor them, you want to see them, they have changed or not, and last but not least, who are your contacts is called among members of a social system. So again, the among members here is refers to the adult in the social system. All right. These are 4 elements of diffusion. So take note if this question will be asked in your final exam. Okay, so the innovation itself is talking about the idea. Okay, it can be a practice, it can be an object, as you mentioned before this, right? Salina said that this is something that how do we improve the teaching and learning? How do we improve the assignment? So this is talking about the practice, and the object itself is your assessment. And of course, you're talking about the innovation here, you're talking about from the perspective of the broad category, relative to the current knowledge of the analyzed unit. So meaning that the innovation itself, you can justify what type of innovation itself, you can categorize them, you can relatively make it as something that you want to provide for their knowledge, understanding, skills, attitude, so on and so forth. So there's a called innovation. Okay, clear? So how do you ensure that the innovation penetrate, okay, the target group's understanding? That we need the diffusion. So diffusion is a process. Okay, remember. Okay, so this is the definition of innovation here again. Talking about the invention is an idea, a sketch or model for a new or improved device, product, process or system. It can be something that invention may often be patent, but they are not to do necessarily lead to technical innovation. In fact, the majority do not. So again, innovation is something that what kind of the improvement that you can provide. And of course, innovation is an economic science. Some people will talk about from the perspective of economic. They can make money. So again, Sugita's understanding here is right. Sometimes you when talking about innovation, always you think about technology. You think about something that maybe can be commercialized. But in the context of the innovation in a social system perspective, again, the innovation is something that you want to develop, okay, the understanding. And of course, innovation, people will talk about from the perspective of product, the process system and device. But here, in the process of discussion in developing the adults, the innovation is something that can improve and upgrading, okay, their skills as well. Okay, clear? Any question? Any question, ladies and gentlemen, about this? Before we go further, I want you understand about it. Okay, so any question, ladies and gentlemen?
No, doctor.
Are you clear with that? Clear? Right. So these are principles in innovation. So the principles in innovation, looking on first, we're talking about the motivation. So what's kind of the motivation? The motivation for the individual, for the adult itself to learn about innovation. That is number one. You need to create the ecosystem. You need to create, okay, the environment that willing them to learn. That is something that the skills you need to have while you're being posted. Okay, maybe you are being assigned. Okay, while after your graduation, you join a company, you'll be assigned to the department. Let's say, for example, the HR department. So in as HR officers in the department, of course, you're dealing with the workers. And again, the workers, you may not expect that they are all the same age with you. Maybe they are more adults, right? Okay, so more older than you. Then how do you cater with them? Okay, you are 23 or 24 years old, but right, your client in the organization, your workers in the organization is more than 40 years old. All right, 50, 52, 45 years old. So how do you deal with them? So that's why you need to create the motivation for them to learn. That's why this was important for you as the HR personnel, because you are dealing with the adults later on, right? First, you create the environment. That's the number one. Okay, environment of them to learn. You create the motivation. How do you develop their motivation to learn? Okay, that is number one. And number two, we're talking about the perspective of one information. So you are seeking about talking about innovation itself. Okay, of course, you provide the tolerable available. So meaning that first you approach them, and slowly you follow up. Maybe you not do some drastic changes. It's not easy, you know. Let's say, for example, this is skills as a HR personnel. Okay, you're dealing with the adults, you may not force them, but you're slowly, this is called tolerable level, all right? And the change you bring, maybe it's not same with the another's target group. Maybe you need to see from the level of the understanding. That's number one. This is something that you need to look on this, all right? The level of the understanding and the level of skills they have. And talking about this thing, talking about decision, how do you make? And of course, we're talking about the innovation decision process. Again, you provide the innovation, but please do not force them to accept this innovation. By right, you need to encourage them to make a decision that they accept the innovation. That is a way how do you convince them. You are not forcing them meaning that to accept the innovation, but you are encouraging them to make a decision and they choose, okay, to have this kind of innovation. All right. So you encourage them that process. That's why you're dealing with that. You cannot force them to change, but you try to tackle them slowly, right? You start to tackle them, help them, guide them, facilitate them to make a decision. That is a way. You may not decide for them, but let them decide for them, but you encourage them to make a decision, right? Okay, that's how you're talking about innovation. And when looking about the characteristic of innovation itself, you can divide by the five terminology, the characteristic of the innovation. First, you're talking about the relative advantage. Number two, you're talking about the compatibility. Number three, talking about the complexity. Number four is about triability. And last but not least is observability. Okay, observability. All right, so observe. So how do you observe and to what extent that observability happen here? Okay, keboleh terlihatan dalam bahasa Melayu. All right, we go one by one. We go for the relative advantage. Are you ready? Okay, right. So what is the relative advantage? We're talking about over existing technologies. It can be perceived, maybe measured in economic terms. Maybe you can look from the perspective of social prestige. How do you convince? And of course, last but not least, talking about the satisfaction. So relative advantage, you're talking about something that the first step, you make them to understand what actually the innovation you want to bring. The definition of term, right? The simple word, the definition of term of innovation. Or maybe what type of innovation you want to deliver. You need them to clear with it. That's number one. Right? When you clear what was talking about, you're talking about the relative advantage. Right? So after you have this kind of thing, then the next phase is talking about a compatibility. Compatibility is talking about looking on the existing values, looking from the past experiences, needs for potential adapters. So compatibility component here, maybe you can help them to see, while when I do this, okay, from this innovation, I can get this thing compared to the previous one. So this is called compatibility. So let them to think about, oh, this is a benefit that I can get if I do this innovation. All right, okay. And again, after you clear with it, let them appreciate this thing through compatibility, then you go for the complexity. So complexity is talking about the degree to which an innovation is perceived as difficult to understand and use. So your roles here, you help them to make it more practical. You help them to and facilitate them to do this. So of course the complexity happen here, right? Because you bring something new. Maybe your innovation that you bring against from their routine, for example. So you let them to make it and assist them. This is called complexity. Try to help them to understand, and of course talking about how to use this. All right, okay, all right. So this is talking about the complexity here, and so they're talking about the triability. Triability is talking about the degree to which an innovation maybe experimented with on the limited basis. A triable innovation represented less uncertainty to a potential adapter, meaning that the triability here, meaning that it's okay, you help them to do this first, let them experience it. At the same time, you can see, and from that, you try to find the your solution on how to overcome, okay, the barriers, maybe the challenges, maybe something like, let's say, for example, how do you solve the problem when you see about the new things that they do. So triability meaning that you do it, let them experience it, at the same time you try to do some improvement. Okay, again, you can do some evaluation, you can monitor it. Okay, you can monitor, you can do some evaluation, at the same time you can improve, okay, the process later on. So these are called triability. So innovation, you need to try. All right, so meaning that that's why when you deliver something to the adults, let them do this, they will experience it, and they will meaning that know about what actually the opportunities, the weaknesses, or maybe they have found the barriers, how to change, how do they overcome the barriers. So this is talking about the triability. All right, clear? Any question about it? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what type of the characteristic of innovation? They have 5. What is the characteristic of innovation, ladies and gentlemen? You can recall it? Panggil apa? Dah dengar kan tadi kan? Apa dia? Pertama apa? What is the first thing?
Relative advantage.
Number 2?
Compatibility.
Number 3?
Complexity.
Number 4?
Durability.
Alright, good. And last but not least is observability. Okay, observability meaning that you observe and be able to observe that. You will feel that, okay, this is something that good, or this is something that maybe we can improve, or maybe something that we can adapt for the next group. Okay, maybe you can do the same thing here again next year, maybe. All right, so thank you very much, Nurul Shafiqah, right? Okay, so observability meaning that you see the result, okay, and look, and how you sure that you want to improve the process later on. Okay, so observability is element of the evaluation, right? It's element of evaluation. You can do and you observe and try to improve for the next one. Okay, so there's a 5 characteristic of innovation. So sometimes people we talk about reinvention. So of course, we're talking about innovation, people always talk about the reinvention. So what's meaning of the reinvention? Compared to this, it's talking about the adapting, and innovation is not necessarily the passive role of just implementing a standard template of a new idea. So reinvention, that's something perspective that how do you do this, try to improve from whatever you have, is something like that. Let's say, for example, just always keep improving. That's a called reinvention. And maybe you start with from the small one, okay, and you do this. Let's say, for example, you do for the certain group of adults, okay, your workers in your department, and you slowly improve that. And after that, it's not from your department, you can make it for the 2 or 3 department, and you are slowly move it like a division, and you slowly for the different division, and last but not least, we change the whole organization. All right, so meaning that is talking about it. And this element of division of process, they have a 3 element of the division process. First, talking about the innovation decision process. Number 2, the innovativeness of an individual. And last but not least, an innovation rate. So innovation rate meaning that how do you can see the different angle of the acceptance. All right, I'm just talking about the innovation rates of adaptation in a system. So they have a 3 elements that you need to consider for it. So what is the 3 elements? The first one talking about the innovation decision process is in line with the decision. So what is the innovation decision process? The process that you through which an individual passes from the first knowledge of innovation, of course they are forming an attitude toward the innovation, to a decision to adopt or reject it, meaning that they can still, again, you provide the innovation, you provide a new things that you want to bring to the adults, but not you are forcing them to accept, but you try to encourage them to make a decision. That is how you deal with adults, right? Let and facilitate, okay, the process of decision rather than you decide for them. Okay, you need to be clear with it. So they can, of course, they can make a decision to adopt or reject. But of course, as a good HR personnel, you encourage them, okay, to make a decision to accept, to adopt. That is how do you deal with that, right? So we're talking about the innovation decision process here. You can divide by the 5 components here. We're talking about the knowledge itself. So knowledge is talking about the content. Number two, the strategy. How do you deal with that? How do you communicate with them? This is called persuasion. And number three, let them to make a decision. Okay, whether they accept or not, and let them to help them to implement it. All right, you facilitate them to implement it. Okay, so implementation is something that the significance of learning they can learn. Okay, from the implementation. And last but not least, it's called a confirmation, meaning that they can practicing it without you. Okay, they feel that this is something important for them, then they need to know to do. Okay, so the confirmation is something that the process they have to change. Okay, talking about from the perspective here at the beginning with the knowledge, but now you can confirming that. Okay, that is ultimate process. Okay, in the decision making, in innovation decision process. All right. So again, you are not forcing them to accept the innovation, but you help them to make a decision to accept the innovation. It's two different things. Okay, that is a strategy on how you deal with adults. Okay, you need to provide the knowledge, persuade them, let them to make decision, they implement by themselves, and last but not least, confirmation. All right. Okay, so we're talking about this thing. You can look from the perspective of knowledge occurs when individual or maybe the other decision-making unit learns of innovation existence and gains some understanding of how it functions. So again, the knowledge is the main important things, right? And occurs of the innovation, and of course the persuasion after that, while you encourage them, okay, you create the forms of favorable and unfavorable attitude toward the innovation. So you help them to favorite with that. And of course, last but not least, let them to make a decision, and decision occurs when individual or be something like here. Okay, so otherwise you can adopt or reject the innovation. So again, this is a process that you help them to make a change here. So talking about this thing, you implement. So implement looking on the perspective that you do this. Okay, and of course they have the stage. Start from the beginning, intermediate, or maybe the advanced. So this is called implementation. All right. And last but not least, talking about the confirmation here. Okay, let them to make something that decision. Okay, you made they share. Let's say for example, they can see the output here, and of course, how do they deal with that kind of the changes here? So this is called confirmation here. All right. So we're looking about the persuasion stage. So how do you persuade them? Okay, persuasion stage talking about the individual wants to know the innovation advantage and disadvantage. So meaning that the first thing that you, let's say for example, you provide the training for the adults in your villages, for example, right, in your hometown. The first aspect, the first thing they ask you, what I can get from this training? What I can get from this course? What I can get from this program? Okay, so the first question here, because they feel that if they are not attending your program, they can get the money, maybe 20 ringgit, 40 ringgit for their routine, right? So now they are lost this position. Yes, so by right, they want to join your program. So the first thing here, what can get from that? This is called the persuasion stage, right? How do you convince them? Okay, why you do this? This is worthwhile. You can change this. So this is something that how you persuade them, okay? And he's talking about the interpersonal network. So how do you deal and communicate with them? This is an element of communication. And ultimately, the innovation is a process leads to either adoption or rejection. So meaning that you adopt or reject. All right. This is something that innovation design process leads to either adaptation, adoption, or to rejection. So innovativeness and adapter categories you can see from the perspective of the terminology. It's called innovativeness, talking about the degree to which an individual or another unit adoption is relatively earlier in adopting new ideas, and of course the others member also will experience this. So innovativeness is a culture. All right, it's a culture that you encourage them to for the betterment, right? So let's say for example, while they're happy to do this, they know about their productivity can improve, and at the same time they also understand from whatever they do in the organization. Okay, you educate the adults here, so now the awareness coming in because the culture happened here. Okay, culture to seek for the betterment, culture for the seek how do we can improve something. And of course, you're talking about this thing, how do you looking from the perspective of adapter? Okay, so the adapter here is talking about how do they accept, okay, the new things that you deliver through the innovation. So the adapter categories here is your target group. Okay, your target group here again, the adults. So even though we do the program for the adults in one organization, in one group of society, in one of the organization, for example, you can see that adapters can be divided by the different types of the categories. First is called innovator. Number 2 is called early adopters. Number 3 is called early majority. Number 4 is a late majority, and last but not least is about laggard. Okay. What is it called about innovators? Innovators is something that while you talk about A, B, C, D, right? They can capture A, B, C, D. They know about A, B, C, D very well, but right, they start to think about X, Y, Z. That is called innovator. They have this in the organization. While you bring something, you can see the small portion of the members. They are innovators. They have a good thinking of innovators. They go beyond on it. They can accept and easy for you to bring the change. It's called innovator group. They have but the small portion from your target group. So innovators dan cerita bila sebut ABC dia dah sebut pasal XYZ. While you deliver this thing, they look as an opportunity to do and they grabs it, they do it. Okay, without any more on the perception, more just look and see. Okay, this is called innovator group. Okay, the second one is called early adopters. So early adopters group here, they have the number of portion, but compared than innovators is more compared than innovators, right? So what is it called early adopters? They seems like innovator, but right, while you deliver something good, they try to grab it and to do this. Okay, this is still considered as early adopters. They have certain number of this composition or in the organization, but it's still low compared than others, right? So what is the majority number of the people in the organization? What is the majority number of people in society? They are looking on the majority. So the majority can be divided by two, early majority or late majority. So early majority, maybe when they look on the early adopters perspective or innovators, they straight away to do that. This is called early majority. But compared to the late majority, they don't do that. They just look and see until they see the output, and the late majority come and say, oh, I see. But you success for that. Now I want to follow it. But actually, late majority is something that the group that something that maybe they lost opportunity to do that. Dia berminat nak buat, tapi dia nak look and see. They want nak tengok dulu hasil dia. Okay, they want to look on the output first. And later on, they make an action towards that. But it's too late. All right, people will get the something that benefits, but you're still looking on it, and at the end, maybe when people achieve that, you start at the beginning. So this is called late majority. And of course, the late majority group always keep manipulating by the people who make some interest on that. Let's say, for example, M&M business, they target for the late majority. All right, because of course the early adopters, early majority, they will get benefits, compared to the late majority. When you see that, oh, you see my friends, they join this MLM, they can come up with the luxury car, and you want to follow. Oh, I want to follow, but at the time you are late. At the same time, this group already get the benefits, and while they get your money and they move away. And how about the majority? Always losers. So don't make it late majority in this class. So try to be early majority at least. All right. If not, you just follow that while you see people success, and at the same time you start to follow and you to do this. But this is too late. So try to change this mind. Right. And last but not least, talking about the laggard. Okay, laggard meaning that they always reject all these things. Kan, anti. It's called laggard. All right. So here, this is your role in the organization. I think this same thing, because let's say, for example, you provide a training. You have the same instructor, you have the same table, you have the same room, you have same equipment, but you can see the students, the level of the understanding of participants is different, right? You can see that. You can see some of them are innovators, some of them are early adopters, some of them are early majority, and some of them are late majority and laggard, right? So this is your role as a HR personnel. You need to change the curve here, not like this. While you provide the training for the adults, while you provide and persuade them, you need to, at the end, you encourage the highest number of the innovators, early adopters, and early majority. And maybe you can make it a very low percentage of the late majority and the laggard. All right. So you can see that here, you try to improve the number of the innovators and early adopters. That is how your roles here as a HR personnel. right? So let them to clear with it, and of course they will understand about the something good, all right, and make them benefits. Any question about the adapters categories? Are you clear with that? Clear tak? Jelas tak?
Clear.
Are you clear? Are you clear with that?
Clear.
Jelas, eh?
Yeah.
Alright, insyaAllah. Okay. Alright. Okay. So insyaAllah this is called adapter categories here. So innovativeness and adapter categories, you're talking about the innovators itself. So the innovators is talking about the, you know, the process of active formation. We talk about the seekers about new ideas, talking about the high degree of mass media. We're talking about interpersonal and talking about the higher levels of uncertainty. So here is talking about the active formation. So how do you seek for the new ideas and look from the perspective of exposure? And of course, again, you look on the perspective of how do you see from the innovation here. You're talking about adapters categories. And late majority categories, something that of course they are low social status, something that maybe they are too limited with that, making little use of mass media channel, and of course the most new ideas from peers with interpersonal channel. All right, so talking about the rate of adoption, we're talking about the relative speed with which an innovation is adopted by members of such a system. And however, there are also differences in the rate of adoption for the same innovation in different social systems. Right? They're talking about the rate of adoption, and there are also difference in the rate of adoption. Okay, right. So how about the social system? Social system is talking about the process here. How do you join the problem solving to accomplish the common goal? And again, it's talking about the sharing of a common objective binds the system together. So you're talking about the engage in the problem solving. How do you solve the problem? And the social system encourage you to learn at the same time to support each other. That's a social system. Let's say, for example, in your department, let's say, for example, your batch, right? Your batch, your HRD batch. This is your social system, meaning that you support to each other, you share the values, right? This is talking about the social system. And again, the social system here, talking about the process of diffusion here. We're talking about the norms of diffusion and talking about the opinion leaders. So here, this is the types of how do you see from the perspective of diffusion. Okay, the social structure here help you to understand the norms. At the same time, you can provide who are the something that want to bring the innovation here. This is called the opinion leaders. Right? So how the system social structure the effect of this thing. So you're talking about the competence, they're talking about the lack, okay, the complete lack of communication structure in the system will be represented by a situation, okay, in which of individual talk about the equal probability and talking about the pattern, right? So how do you adapt the innovation, and to what extent that you see the innovation, is it difficult to study, and how do you help them to have a clear understanding about the innovation they want to bring. Of course, innovation is new things, but how do you adapt with it? So this is talking about this thing, right? And how do you see from the system norms and diffusion? So norms here is talking about the how do you make them more tolerable. They're talking about the expected individual and how do you overcome the barriers. And at the same time, the norms here is talking about the activities, the routine they do. So again, the norms is about the routine, the activities, or how do you change, how do you improve the norms? Okay, that is called the diffusion of innovation. So you slowly, okay, change the norms. And of course, who are people who try to spark this thing? These are called opinion leaders. So opinion leaders here is talking about the individual that influence, they be able to influence others, right, to do their changes, to do some innovation, right? And of course, the opinion leaders always looking on the technical competence, looking on the social acceptability, and looking on the conformity to the system norms. Okay, so the opinion leader here is talking about how do you create, okay, the process here, and of course looking on the process more efficiently, and how do you see from the perspective of the leaders itself helping, okay, the target group to change, okay, to bring the something like a good for the betterment to the innovation. That's called opinion leaders, right? Who are spark, okay, the changes. And the opinion leaders, of course, they're talking about how do you have the skills, meaning that more exposed to all forms of external communication, talking about the higher social status and the more innovative. We're talking about the innovative depends in part of system norms, right? So here that is called the opinion leaders, right? So the opinion leaders help, okay, to change this thing. All right. So opinion leaders is a person that encouraging others to change through the innovation and help the process and expedite the process of diffusion. Okay, that is a role of the opinion leaders. Okay. Any question about diffusion of innovation, ladies and gentlemen? Are you clear with that? Ada soalan? Okay, have any question, ladies and gentlemen? Asyik dengar je. Kena tanya soalan lah. Right. What do you think about innovation here? What do you think? Right. Ada soalan?
No,
Anis?
doctor.
Okay, so kita tak ada soalan. Hanis, Syamimi, ada soalan? Any question?
Tak ada doktor, semua okey.
Clear?
Clear.
Izzati? Okay ya?
Okey doktor.
Said Amirul? Any question?
So far so good, doktor.
So far so good. So pegang piala kat posas tu, bahaya tu. Oh, okay. Alright. So ladies and gentlemen, we break for the 10 minutes. Inshallah, we will continue for the topic 7. So after this, we discuss about topic 7, talking about the concept of adult education in program development, right? So you can break 10 minutes. Inshallah, we back on the 10 minute. Alright, 10 pukul 10 untuk discuss. We discuss from the perspective of number 7, talking about topic 7. Here is the concept of adult education program development, right? Okay, stay tuned. See you again in 10 minutes, inshallah. So you can enjoy to drink your coffee and smell the coffee. Okay?
Okay, doctor.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, inshallah we will continue the discussion for the second part of the class. We discuss for the topic number 7 here. Are you okay? Macam mana break? Okay, sempat smell coffee?
Yes, doctor.
Okay.
Alright, shall we continue? Okay, so this is topic 7. I'm going to share the screen. So topic 7 is more on the program planning basis. We learn about the concept of adult education program development. All right. So what is the concept of adult education program development here? So we're going to discuss in this topic 7. All right. Actually, why we provide the program of the adult education program development, we need to know about the goals and objective. That's number 1. Okay, because here, what is the goals and objective of adult education program development? First thing is we want to provide the second opportunity for adults to follow, okay, the formal system of education. Maybe before this, because of the poverty, maybe because of this, they don't have opportunity to meaning that to pursue, okay, the study, for example. So now you provide the second opportunity for them to follow their education. And number 2, because of the related with the technical education. So maybe they are missed with that and want to provide it. And maybe this is something that you want to provide for the continuing education, meaning that you strengthen up the skills, right? And again, from this perspective, you provide them the training, for example, the course that we can upgrading their skills. Maybe you want to help them to reskill, to upskilling, to reskilling process. Okay, so this is talking about how do you provide the continuing education. And of course, adult education program development also can provide opportunities for in-service training. So what's meaning of in-service training? Meaning that it's more likely that on the job training, you have your own work, you have your own roles, your position, right? You provide the training to upskilling yourself and to reskilling, okay, your capability. All right. So this is talking about this thing, and again here is talking about the opportunities to self-actualization, and of course they will provide to solve the individual, family, and community challenges. So this is talking about how do you resolve the individual, family, and community challenges, and at the end of the program development, you help them to achieve the self-actualization. So what's meaning of self-actualization? What they want in their life. So you provide, you help them to provide the self-actualization in the context of environment, socialization, volunteerism, and this is in line with what they need, right? So this is the idea of the adult education program development. We're talking about the program development process. You can't hide with the 3 main phases, talking about the planning, implement, and evaluate. Okay, perancangan, pelaksanaan, dan penilaian. These 3 components is important. This is called perencanaan program. Okay, we're talking about perencanaan program. They will discuss from the perspective of merancang, melaksana, dan menilai. Okay, in English, we call it the program planning. So the program planning here covers planning, implementation, and evaluation. Right? So again, in talking about the program planning here, so you need to look from the perspective of the how do you plan with it. So it starts from the program itself. How do you develop the program? You organize, you organize and you set up, the advisory group. Many advisory group meaning that you can get the representative from the target group. You have the training provider, for example. So and you try to looking on the perspective what kind of the activities or what kind of program we should go. Meaning that is so-called advisory group. So advisory group can be a representative from the target group itself. So you know about what is the problem, what is their current situation. You can get the perspective from the target group here, right? So this is called advisory group. You try to collect the fact. So the data collection here can be from your observation. Maybe you can conduct for the simple survey. You know about what actually the current situation happened, with your target group. When they say, for example, for the adult itself. So what actually the adult in your focus of the adult here looking for, or maybe what was their barriers, or maybe the current situation here. And from that, you try to do some analyze the fact and determine the situation. So whether the situation here is critical, maybe you can improve this, or maybe in the moderate situation. So you can make a decision after you collect the data and you analyze the data. And you know, from that you can identify the problem. So the problem here, you know that this is something that maybe you can help to identify this thing. Right? So identify the problem here is looking on how do you look from the perspective of from what ought to be and what's your expectation. So this is a problem, is called a gap that you want to implement. So from the gap here, from the problem that you have, you develop the objective. Right? So this is called program planning here. Okay, you develop the objective and you look on the priorities. Okay, because you have the problem. So from the problem, how do you get the problem? Of course, you get from the advisory group, from the data collection, okay, from the analysis, right? So you develop the objective according to cater the problem, and from that you know about which one is the priority. Okay, you develop the program. Okay, you revise the program, and of course, it's talking about the evaluate the accomplishment, right? To look on the content itself, right? And you execute the plan. So execution is talking about the program itself, how do you conduct, you select the program objective for emphasis, and this is something that how do you implement it. And last but not least, you evaluate. And the process will be, the evaluation process will be start from the beginning actually, right? Maybe some of you feel that the evaluation is just at the end of program, but actually the evaluation is started from the beginning of the process. This is called a formative evaluation. What is the evaluation after the program? It's called a summative evaluation, right? Now you know about the evaluation. Maybe you feel that evaluation at the end of the program, but actually it's wrong. The evaluation can be start from the beginning of that. It's called element of monitoring. It's called the formative evaluation. All right. And what is a summative evaluation? Meaning that you do the evaluation after at the end of the program. Okay. All right. So clear. Any question? Ada soalan tak? What is a formative evaluation, ladies and gentlemen? Apakah itu formative, penilaian formatif atau formative evaluation? What is a formative evaluation?
Early evaluation.
Early evaluation, meaning that element of the monitoring, right? Monitoring is a part of the formative evaluation. What is the summative evaluation? What is the summative evaluation? Apa maksud summative evaluation? Cepat. Baru tadi saya sebut. Saya take note ni. Meaning that you do the evaluation after the program ends, right? Meaning that after the program ends, you have the summative evaluation here, right? So meaning that you can do the evaluation after the program for the improvement. Okay, all right. All right. So this is the idea of it. So in order to do this, you need to have the evaluation analysis. So situational analysis is very important. So situation analysis help you to organize, okay, and of course they will guide, okay, the advisory group, for example, to see that this is something that you know there's a problem. So of course the advisory group can help you to advise what actually the current situation they are facing. And of course the situation analysis can be provided from the data collection, okay, meaning that you collect the data, you from the observation, from the interview, maybe you conduct for the simple survey, can, right? So all these things will be a fact that you can get, and you can determine the situation, and from that you can identify the problem. Okay, that is called the situational analysis that maybe you can do, right? So the simple as that, what ought to be is called the expectation. Okay, maybe this committee, this group, or this organization should be have this component, and this component. Must be do this thing, and this thing. This is called the expectation. This is called what ought to be. However, based on the current situation, the level of understanding just here, just this level. They know about just only this, but they are not achieving whatever from your expectation. So this is called a reality. All right. So the expectation versus reality is called situational analysis. You can identify the problem, and from the problem itself, from the GIS gap, you can identify this problem, and this problem you can turn it into the objective of the program. Okay, you got what I mean? Meaning that it's called expectation versus reality, right? So there's a called expectation. Here, maybe you need to have this thing. However, based on the current situation now, you just achieving for this part. So that's, you can see the gap, right? It's called the gap. Okay, the gap, the practice gap between these things. and you are slowly to turn, okay, this gap, okay, this problem into the objective of the program. Okay, this is how you cater with it. So how do you develop the program objective? The first thing is this must be based on a problem, meaning that you identify the problem, and from the problem itself, you turn it into the objective. That's why when you conduct the program, you will get the support, you will gain the support from the participants, from the client, because they feel that they need this program. They need this program because this program will help them to solve the problem, because you identify the problem. If not, if you just do the program without knowing what actually the problem itself, so maybe, all right, you akan buat program short sendiri lah, kan? That's why the objective of the ADAPT program should be based on the problem. Okay. And number two, it must be client oriented. It must be target the client, focus on the area, target area. Okay, and of course the program focus. So these four things is in line with the program objective here. We're talking about the focus of the program. Okay, so the adult education program development and direction here is talked about from the perspective of goal, okay, objective, target, and training. Okay, so the goal here is talking about aspiration. Objective is talking about the what actually you can deliver, okay, through the program. So the target, meaning that who is your target group, who is your client, and the training, it shows that what kind of the implementation, the general direction, the progress. So the training will be based on the implementation, right? Okay, will be based on the implementation. So this is a component that you need to know. From the goal, you set the objective. From the objective, who is target group and what kind of the implementation, what is the best approach, okay, to convince this kind of group, okay, to the adult education from development. So it must be in line with the trending. Okay, right. This is the four component here you need to know. And in terms of program of objective development, it can be based on the SMART. SMART is talking about the specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time frame. You have a period. The specific meaning that you cater what exactly their needs. Measurable, to what extent that this achievement can be measured or not. Achievable meaning that is something that you are be responsible to achieving, meaning that how do you ensure that they can be achieved. Realistic, we're talking about the objective is possible to attain. We're talking about the motivational effect, and time frame meaning that you have the period, okay, the achievement to of the clearly stated here. The time is talking about the time period, what kind of the range that you can achieve this thing. Right. So basically, the implementation here is looking on the perspective of the here. You can ask yourself, okay, as a HR personnel. So basically, in the specific things that what exactly needs to be accomplished. Why do we want to accomplish this goal? So this is something that question you can ask yourself. Measurable, how will we know that you have succeeded? All right. Attainable, maybe you can ask yourself, do we have the resources to achieve the goal? Right. And the relevant is talking about the worthwhile goal, and the time bound is talking about the time frame here. Okay, so specific again, it must be based on the problem oriented. Measurable, meaning that boleh diukur. Okay, attainable boleh dicapai tidak. Relevant, is it considered can be make sense for you to achieve that, and they have a time frame. Okay, how long you take this, okay, to achieve this thing here. Okay, right. So this is called the SMART objective. In terms of implementation, you're talking about the effective size small group activities here. So identify your target group, meaning that this is talking about you need to know what is your target group, and you divide the clients into small group. So meaning that in terms of the effectiveness, maybe you can in line with the certain number of the group that maybe you can facilitate them. All right. So that's why the small effective of group, it will be based on the number of the participants, so that you can focus on your target group. All right. And every client group must appoint a leader, okay, to facilitate coordination of the activities. So easy for you to monitor and let them to do their own work, and they can have the empowerment, okay, the element of empowerment here, right? You let them to choose, and of course at the end you encourage them, facilitate them to make a decision, not you decide everything for them, right? you help them to make them you help and guide them for them to make the decision. So this is outline of the adult education program development. Why you do the work, okay, talking about you develop the plan. So you need to consider what to learn. So what can adult to learn, right? So you need to mention it here. When to learn, how to learn, where to learn, who is responsible for learning. So this is a consideration, the question that maybe you can ask yourself before you implement the adult education program development, right? It's very important to know about what to learn, when to learn, because let's say, for example, you cater with a community of fishermen. Of course, you may not do the program maybe in the middle of the year. Maybe the best thing that you can reach them maybe at the end of the year, because musim terkujuh kan, because the rainy day, they may not go to the sea to catch the fish, for example. So this is a good thing for them, for you to conduct the program, the adult program here. So because we're talking about when. How to learn is about the strategy here. Are you meet them? Are you do some demonstration? Or maybe you visit them to see whether they are changed or not. Or maybe you bring them to see the examples. Okay, those are talking about where to learn. All right? Okay, this is strategy of the adult education. So we're talking about the implementing adult teaching learning method here. So you can have that kind of this thing. You can have a small group discussion or activities. So meaning that easy for you to monitor the group. Okay, rather than you look for the perspective of the whole participant or whole target group there. You can make it in a small group, so easy for you to monitor. You can have the result demonstration. You can see here. All right, you bring them to see the result. Okay, let's say for example, you're talking about the paddy farmers, right? You want to change their perspective. You bring them. You can arrange the trip to go to the skin chan, for example, to see how do they produce 10 tons per egg per egg to look on how their product or produce the 10 tons per egg, right? So this is talking about result demonstration here. All right, and we're talking about the method demonstration. So method demonstration is talking about the process that you implement it in front of them, to show them step by step, so they know about how to do this and how to make this. Okay, this is called method demonstration. Or maybe you visit them. Okay, you have the whole visit. You visit them and look on the whatever they have, the limitation, the process here. So this is called the method demonstration. Okay. And how about the small group discussion? So small group discussion is talking about how do you have the dialogue, you have the discussion with your team members, right? So let them to share the values, right? Maybe they are share their weaknesses together, and also they will find the problem by themselves, right? So talking about the small group discussion or dialogue. The method demonstration meaning that you show them, you transfer the technology and practices to the client, which is the adult itself, all right? And you yourself, let's say for example, you are as an agent, right, of change. Maybe you HR personnel. Maybe you want to show and show them, okay, how to make it, all right? Okay, this is called the demonstration, because they will seeing, they will testing it, they will touching, and of course they will learn. All right, so this is talking about how do you implement it in front of them. Okay. The third one is talk about the result demonstration, meaning that let them to see. Seeing is believing. Right. So meaning that to see whether they are, oh, actually you can have that. Then later on, you slowly educate them. If people can do, right? Why not you? All right. That is talking about the result demonstration. You bring them to see the result, and maybe you can have the home visit. This is called training and visit. 2L, latih dan lawat. Latih dan lawat, meaning that you have provide a training. And later on, you can go back, okay, to your client to see and monitor the progress. Okay, you visit them to see whether they are changed or not. So, for example, in organization, right? Let's say, for example, you provide the training to the adult workers in your company, for example. And as a good HR person, you just not provide in the one time. You not to do for the one-off program, but you back to the line. You monitor. Okay, you monitor the progress in the workplace. Okay, in the department. Alright, so this is called the training and visit. Okay, latih dan lawat. Okay, clear. Alright. So of course, in terms of the monitoring and evaluation the adult program, okay, of course the monitoring is a program is ongoing. Alright, so of course here you can monitor, you can know. Then of course, talking about the evaluation, you can divide by two perspectives. It's a formative evaluation and summative evaluation. Formative evaluation, you focus on what? You focus on the monitoring component. Compare then summative evaluation, you do the evaluation after the program. Maybe you look from the perspective after 1 month, they back to the workplace. After 3 months, after 6 months, do they can implement it? Let's say, for example, you provide the training, but by right, they cannot implement it because maybe the equipment, okay, in the real workplace, not compatible with the skills they had from the training. So that's why we need to have that kind of the monitoring and evaluation, okay, to see the strength and weaknesses, and how do we change the weaknesses to be an opportunity. All right, that is how you deal with it. So we're talking about the evaluation in program development. Basically, usually you look at the end of program, but actually you can start from the beginning itself. Okay, and of course the evaluation to see maybe it can be a return on investment indicator. All right, or maybe they can be a KPI, okay, key performance indicator that maybe you can evaluate. Okay, so that's why you see that from the adult education program development, if you conduct it, you can see to what extent the effectiveness of program. Okay, do they transfer it to their workplace, for example? Do they implement it in their community? All right, and this is an element of monitoring and evaluation here. Okay, it's a formative and summative evaluation happen here to improve the program time to time. Okay, and of course, if you want to conduct again a program in the future, you know that it's something that you need to give a priority. Okay, based on your understanding here. So this is talking about the monitoring evaluation process. You can element of the strategy, the duration, budget, staff, and physical input. All these things will be monitored here in the process, and of course, the evaluation will be after the program later on. All right. So the strategy, duration, budget, staff, and physical input is more likely that you formulate the program, and you execute the program. At the end, you can do some evaluation after the program later on. All right. Okay. Clear? Any question about program development? Ada soalan tak berkaitan dengan program development? Concept of adult education or program development? Any question? Ada soalan? Any question about adult education? Are you clear with that? So what is the 3 component in the program planning? What's the 3 component of the program planning? Anyone? Apa 3 komponen dalam program planning? What is the main 3 pillars in the program planning? Anyone?
Planning,
Okay.
implement dengan evaluate.
Alright, good. Thank you very much, Shafika. Alright, so planning, implementation, implementing, and evaluating. Meaning that kita evaluate dia. Alright. Okay, plan, implement, and evaluation. Okay, good. Well done. Alright. So again, here you need to know the concept of the program planning. It must be based on the problem. So you develop the objective according to the problem. So what is the 5 components in the developing the objective? What is the 5 things that important for you to develop the objective? Anyone? What is the 5 components here?
Problem identify.
Okay.
Target client,
Okay.
target area, and program focus.
Okay, good. Actually, you can translate into the 5. Okay, the 5 terminology here. So what is the 5 terminology in developing the objective? What is the 5?
Specific,
Measurable,
achievable,
realistic,
and time.
realistic, and
Time.
okay, they have a time frame. Okay, they have the time frame. Good, right? So this is a strategy. How do you make it? All right. So again, it must be smart, right? Okay, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and last but not least is about time frame, right? Okay, so clear? Any question about it? Okay, this is I want to show you the example. How do you make it the smart objective here, right? So specific, it must be clear. You must be clear. Okay, please take note, right? Specific must be clear, right? So, and of course, when you develop the objective, it must be clear, all right? And number two is must be measurable. Boleh diukur atau tidak, right? So, is it measurable? Is it achievable? Boleh dicapai tidak? Meaning that you can achieve it or not? Is it realistic? Sesuai. Okay, meaning that is it realistic? Is it meaning that sesuai? Meaning that this is realistic to the cater to the problem, and you need to have the time frame. Okay, I give you some example here. Maybe you can see from the example that I make for that. All right, let me share the screen. Okay, so this is just example here. All right, okay, so you can see in the screen here. Okay, all right, so meaning that is a smart, is a specific, it must be clear, jelas Let's say for example, you want to develop the competency among the young, among the new workers, right? You want to develop the competency among new workers. That is something that clear, right? This is called specific. And is it the measurable? Boleh diukur, meaning that in on what? In developing them in terms of the skills, okay, in sewing, okay. Let's say for example the tudung itself, okay, the modern, okay, the modern hijab, all right. Let's say for example you want to upgrade their skills in sewing the modern hijab. Is it boleh dicapai tidak? Is it realistic? Okay, sorry, is it measurable? Boleh dicapai tidak? Measurable. So for what? What is the measurable you want to see to upgrading the number of the selling, okay, in online platform, for example. Is it realistic? Boleh dicapai tidak? Sesuai atau tidak? About what? 70%. All right, the selling. And what you expect from the training? How long you take it? Of course, this is within 3 months. All right, maybe 6 months, maybe 1 year. So it depends on you looking on the perspective of the target. It's based on the problem that you have. So you can combine this thing, right? Then you can have the good objective here. Membangunkan kompetensi kekitangan baru. This is called specific, measurable, okay, dalam menjahit to the modern, okay, realistic bagi meningkatkan jualan dalam talian, kan? Sorry, attainable. Attainable bagi meningkatkan jualan dalam talian. Okay, realistic sebanyak 70%, time within 3 months. Okay, this is how do you combine it? Meaning that the specific here to develop the competency among young workers, that is called specific, measurable in sewing the modern hijab, right? For example, and this is called measurable. And how about the attainable? To increasing the number of the selling in online platform, for example. Okay, and what is so-called realistic? Within 70%. Okay, so what is the time frame? Within 3 months. So you can combine, okay, this like an objective. Are you clear with that? Okay, this is something that you do the adult program, okay, to the adult. So of course, this is part of the adult education program in organization because you do on the profit. Okay, what about services? And maybe you can change that. Are you clear with that? Nampak tak lebih jelas? Why, how, what is important of the SMART objective to helping you to develop the objective? Are you clear?
Yes,
Senang nak
Doctor.
contoh yang saya bagi ni? Senang nak contoh saya bagi ni?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay, alright.
Yes.
And later on you can do this as your example to make the comparison between how you develop this thing. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, any question? So now today we cover 2 topics here.
Excuse me, Doctor. I want to ask
Yeah,
your
Nabila.
opinion. What
Okay.
is the best method to conduct the training during this pandemic?
Okay, this is a good question. Because during the pandemic, mostly that you're not allowed to have the one mass group in one place, right? So of course, you need to do in another way. You have the online platform, let's say for example Zoom, Webex, right? Maybe you can still allowing for the two-way communication, but via online platform. That is a strategy that maybe you can do, right? In terms of encouraging to have a two-way communication. Otherwise, maybe you just provide for the knowledge, for to share the knowledge, to share the from the perspective of the understanding. Maybe you can have the one-way style, which is you provide a video, right? The YouTube, Facebook Live. It's more on the one-way method, right? And of course, let's say for example, the Facebook Live also can allow you for the two-way communication, but not effectively because they will not asking you via verbal. They will text you right in the message, right? So that is a style strategy during the pandemic, or maybe you can do something like a hybrid platform. Maybe you have a small group of the participants, and the rest will be follow you. Maybe we'll have that kind of session with you via online. Okay, this is how you try to make it creativity on it. But for those who are client that they are social savvy, okay, they are digital savvy. I'm sorry, they are digital savvy. They are familiar with the handphone, with the gadget and internet. They don't have a problem. What is the limitation here? How do you cater if your target group here for the Aboriginal people who are stay in a remote area? Okay, they don't have a digital, they don't have internet. So how do you cater to educate them? And again, you need to go there. Okay, you need to go there, right? So the innovation that you bring is not you are forcing them to grab the innovation from you, but as a HR personnel, you provide and bring the innovation to them. Okay, that is the idea of how do you deal during the pandemic, right? How do you work with adults during the pandemic, inshallah. Okay, any question? Ada soalan lagi? Silakan. Any question, ladies and gentlemen? Ada soalan? It's a good question, Nabila. Yes, Selina.
If I may ask about this question. Okay, so
Okay.
let's say this person as the organizer,
Okay.
his or her objective is just to help people while fulfilling their free time, meaning that the program is as the not the main career lah, just a side things to do. So is that objective or purpose of helping people could be considered as a solid objective?
Okay, thank you very much, Sarina, for the good question. First of all, I mentioned to you, right? Let's say, for example, if you want to formulate, okay, the adult education program development, you need to do some, to know about what actually the problem faces here. Let's say, for example, you set up for the advisory group. Maybe you get the perspective from the survey, from the observation. Let's say from your survey, from your observation, and from the data that you gathered, and maybe from the advisory say that they want to increase their income. For example, maybe they have their own job, but they want to increase their income. For example, maybe they are rubber taper, right? Rubber taper, no tahan rubber taper. But right, at the same time, you want to, they are not stay longer in the do the rubber taper in a whole day, right? Maybe they do the tapping at the morning. So what is activity in the afternoon? So maybe you can provide the program that they can generate the income. But if there are problem like that, because let's say for example from the survey, they of course they want to have the side income activities, then you can make it as an objective, right? To provide the program, the activities that they can generate their own income. Okay, let's say for example, what kind of the project that you can generate their own income, right? For example, maybe they can use the krepek goreng, for example, for the another things that you can do to generate the income. Maybe they can bake a kuih, for example, right? So meaning that it's just not do the revenue process, but at the same time you can generate the income, okay, from that particular things. Or maybe they can set up for the small business, all right? Maybe you can bring the company, go to the villages and bring them to set up. At the end, let's say for example, all the products they will collect, and again, that company we can generate income to sell in terms of the jadi orang tengah. At the same time, also bring benefit to the target group. So yes, that is adult program development. Okay, that's adult program development. Okay, ada soalan lagi? Any question? Okay, so if you don't have any question, I will say thank you very much to all of you. Right? Actually, I'm happy. It seems like therapy for me. Actually, I'm not feeling well. but look on your voice, look on your face. I think that maybe after this you will switch on the camera because you want to record your attendance. I'm not sure why student or switch it to camera kan, but it's okay. Maybe you have the reason why you shut down your camera during the lecture. Alright, so pada saya this is how do you communicate between the teachers and guru ada guru kan. Tapi it's okay. I think you have the reason why. Okay, but then this is like therapy for me because I hearing your voice as a lecturer, tiba-tiba jadi semangat walaupun tak sihat. Alright, okay, so inshallah see you again next week for the presentation.
Doctor,
Yes, Sugita.
I have a question and also a request. There's a submission on this 18th in Putra Plus for the slides. So can we ask like if we can extend it to week 10? Because
Meaning for what? Yeah, for what? For the assessment?
For the submission of slides in week 8. It's due on
okay,
Saturday.
no problem. Okay, no problem. On week 10, no problem. Okay, I'm okay with that. As long as you're happy to do that. Okay.
So doctor will change the due date in the Putra Plus, is it?
Yeah, sure, I will change it.
Okay, doctor, and also doctor, since most of our group did interview with adult education programs, right? So can we give a certificate for the instructor?
Yeah, sure, no problem. You can create. Meaning that the certificate of acquisition. You meaning that?
Yes, doctor. Yes.
Okay, never mind. Maybe Sugita, you can discuss with your team, right? To come up with the design of the certificate. You can email to me. I will put a sign, and you can use that to give to the all the meaning that the respondent that will give us, okay, the input, okay, for each of your interview. All right, so we can have the standardized certificate. Okay, we can make it, no problem, Sugita. You can email to me the design. Okay, I will put the sign.
Sure, doctor. And also,
yeah.
And also a last question regarding our slides, doctor provided in Padlet and also Putra Blast. That slides we can't edit, highlight, or print. It requires password.
No need to put the password. You just click read only. Once you click read only, you can print as usual. No problem.
What is it, doctor?
Read only.
Oh,
but once you click, you don't need to put the password. You just click read only. Okay, you can print, you can read as usual, no problem. All right. Okay, if you want to transfer to the another file, you can copy and cut and paste. It's up to you, right? When let's say, for example, you want to locate to the desktop or the file, you can copy and paste as usual. And once you want to open it, you can click it. Just click read only. You can print, you can read as usual, no problem. There's no issue at all. Okay.
Okay, doctor, thank you.
Okay. So how about the progress of the book? Everything is okay?
Yeah, I believe all groups are doing their assignments currently for the
all right,
book.
good. And my suggestion before this, you can submit early, no problem. Don't need to until the presentation day. You can submit it and you have time to improve later on, no problem. And it's good for you to do some editing, maybe to see the grammar and so forth. And at the same time, you can send to ISBN to apply for the ISBN, right? You have the draft. And let's say, for example, if you want to add something later on, you can wait maybe a day, a minute before you do some printing, or maybe you do some ebook, all right, before you publish it. You can do some amendment, no problem at all. All right, so don't delay. So you still have time to do some amendment, so on so forth. All right, so see you next week, inshallah. So Sugita, may I know whose group that going to present next week?
Group 13, group 2, and group 3, doctor.
All right, there's 3 groups, right?
Yes, three groups, doctor.
Okay, so give you time, 30 minutes presentation, 30 minute presentation, and we have a 10 minutes Q&A. Right? So I hope that the next week discussion, you have a lot of questions want to ask the group. I don't want to make it after the presentation. Any question? And all of you are shy. No, because we want to encourage the the interaction between the group, and also you can give feedback. You can give the feedback to improve, because at the end, all the chapters will be in the same book, right? You are together with that. Okay, jangan kata saya kepala-kepala, I'm different group. No, you can give the input, because at the end, all these things will be in the one book, all right? This is your books, okay? All right. So next week, I hope that they have present. You can use your own creativity to present. You want to use Kahoot, so on, so forth. It's up to you. I give you the marks. Okay, this is innovation marks based on your presentation. So I hope that you can do better and prepare. Markah banyak ni tau. So do the best thing for the next week presentation, insyaAllah. Any question? Any questions, Sugita? Ada makluman lagi?
Not from me, Doctor. Maybe from other classmates. Anybody have any questions regarding assignments or anything?
Yeah. Any questions? Okay. No. All right. How are you, Hanim?
I'm fine, Doctor.
All right. Oh yeah, I would like to say congratulations all of you. All right, because you did very well in your first test. Okay, well done. I already evaluate your marks. So maybe you can see that in the Putra Blast. Boleh tengok di Putra Blast. Sorry, di SMP. Boleh ya? You can access it, the result. I'm not sure.
Yes,
For the first
Doctor. We
test.
can. We can.
Dah tengok dah? Dah tengok dah result?
Yeah.
All right. So congratulations, right? So inshallah, it's out of 20%. So good luck, right? So I hope that maybe you can improve in terms of marks for your test 1, test 2. Sorry, it's not test 1. The test 1, the first test. Your assessment. Okay, your assessment. All right. So well done. I read your idea. Wow, it's fantastic. So yeah, see you again inshallah next week for the presentation. Okay, good luck. All the best, everyone. See you again inshallah next week. So before we end, so maybe we have the photographer to snap the picture of attendance. Silakan.
Sure, Doctor. Everybody can switch on your camera.